Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, setting up your xTool S1 on Lightburn. Well, I've received several emails and several questions about how to set up the xTool S1 Enclosed Laser Engraver with Lightburn. XCS is no big deal. People are hooking that up with no problems whatsoever, but it seems they're a little confused on how to go about setting it up with Lightburn. And if that's the software that they want to use, well, the xTool S1 is very capable of being connected to that. So let's get the computer fired up. Let's get that S1 fired up. And I'm going to show you guys step by step how to set it up. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you've connected your laser and upgraded all of the firmware. You cannot upgrade the firmware on any other format other than XCS. So make sure your firmware is up to date. Once you get that done, you can come here on xtool.com. I'm in their Canadian store, and you want to go to support, and then you want to click on Help Center, and it's going to ask you now which device. You want it for the xTool S1. We'll click on that, and if you scroll right down to the bottom, you'll see here, Use with Lightburn. You want to click on that link, and at this point, go past this, download and install Lightburn, and right here, this is what you want. This is the configuration file. And while you can set it up manually, it's a bit of a pain, and unless you're really familiar with the laser settings and that sort of thing, it can really cause you some issues. So first things first, you want to download this configuration file. And we can shut down this browser. We'll come into our downloads and take our configuration file out, and I'll just place it here on the desktop. At this point, you want to open Lightburn. We need to now connect our laser. First things first, guys, turn your xTool S1 on. Make sure your power is connected. You want to go into Laser, click on Devices, and here's the list of the different lasers you have. You want to add a new one, but we're going to import. So click Import, and it's going to want the file. This is the file you want right here. We've placed it on the desktop. It'll be the LBDEV file. So we're going to click on that and open it. Click OK. We will now click xTool S1, and there we go. We are now connected. We are now saved and working in Lightburn. It's as simple as that. So what we're going to do now is I want to change some of the names here. We see that this here is not in English, which doesn't really suit me. I can't read it. So again, that's a simple change. We're going to go into Devices. We're going to click on this one and click Edit. And we can just carry on through with all the settings exactly as it is, except for here. This one, we can edit the name. Now it's kind of strange here. I'm seeing these settings are odd. It has an x-axis of 508 and a y of 390. That's not even close. The xTool S1 on the x-axis actually runs at 498 millimeters, and the y-axis is actually 319. So there we go, we just caught that. And we'll rear left, that's fine. Auto home, that's fine. Everything looks good. We're going to click Finish and OK. And there we go. Now we've got our configuration the way that it should be. Well, I've placed this display back to its default settings. You can do that by coming up here and clicking Window and then reset to default layout. And that will give you this configuration that you're looking at here. Now guys, see this detect right here? This is under the console heading. This detect is actually your autofocus. I don't really like the word detect, so you can just right click on this and we're gonna change that to focus. And you can just click OK. And there we go, that's now changed and saved in there. So if we drag the head of our 20-watt laser here over top of our material, we're going to want to focus. Now guys, you have to close the lid if you want this to work. Don't ask me how I know, I just know. So over here now we'll click focus, and I just want to show you something here that I've noticed. If you click focus, the pin comes down, it will focus to the material, head over to the far right and reset, and then return back to where it was. Now, if you're a Lightburn user, chances are you are a fan of or normally use this button right here, which is your home button. But I want to show you what happens when you hit home. If you hit home, not only does this reset your X and Y axis, but it will also reset your Z, which will throw your focus out of whack. And I'll just click home here and show you that. And there it goes, it just reset the Z, there's the Y, and there's the X. We're now in the home position, but we have lost our ability here to have our focus. So you may want to avoid that home command if at all possible. So we have a test project in here. It's some of our reusable tags. We're just going to try this and see how it works using Lightburn here. And so the first thing is, you know, we've changed this to focus. We will focus our laser again. It takes a second. And while we're at it, we're going to come down here. We're going to click the laser tab, and we're going to run this in current position. I'm not going to run at this point by absolute coordinates. I don't have the coordinates engraved in here, so for me that's not an option that I want to use. So I'm going to use current position. So we will just click frame to ensure that our project is going to engrave properly on this piece of ply, and we're going to give this a try. So all that's left to do really is click start. So I'm going to let that vent out, and we're seeing a bit of a problem, and that would appear, it looks like the crosshair and the laser pointer is actually, it looks like the offset is out of whack, because where that framed and where it started engraving is not even close. So it looks like we're going to have to change the offset of the laser between the crosshairs and the laser point. So in order to check for our offset, you're going to want to go into Lightburn Edit up here at the top, come down to the bottom to Device Settings, and we can see right here, look at this. This is the laser offset. We can see they have it set at 21 millimeters, but it is not turned on. So we're going to enable that offset. I don't know if the 21 millimeters is correct, so we're going to test that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a dot right here and line the crosshairs up with that dot. Now that dot should potentially be the top of our engraving. So what is most important to note is whether or not our lasering ended up in line with our drawn dot, and it looks like it's just a little bit off. So we're going to test this and see if we can't calibrate this just a little better. And you guys can do this same test on yours if you want. All I'm going to do is draw a line here. just like that. And we're going to line up our laser with that line. Now we're only lining it up on the front to the back. I don't really care left to right because the laser head in this case is in line with that axis. So what we're going to do is I'm going to engrave just a straight line, just a small little line, and we're going to measure how far it's off. So I've just drawn this one little line. We are going to focus our laser. Make sure that the pointer of your laser is over top of your material. You don't want it going down into your honeycomb. That will cause you a whole new world of grief. And we'll just check we have our crosshairs lined up with that line that we drew, and we're just going to engrave this one line. And we'll just check our material. It looks like it's about 1 millimeter off or around there. So we can go into Lightburn, Edit, Device Settings, and here on our offset, on our y-axis, we're going to increase it. You know what, I'm going to do 22.5. And we'll see how that works. And we're going to do the exact same test. And we will continue to do this test until we get it lined up the way we want it. So I'm going to play around with this a little more, and I'm going to give you the final results of what the offset is for the 20-watt laser when I get that done. Okay, so I actually used a razor blade and put some cuts in here and filled it with graphite to get the finest line I could. And the final results were 22 millimeters on the y-axis for the offset. Again, you don't need an X offset for here because the crosshairs align with the laser head. So 22 millimeters, check yours, guys. Lasers can be out, so make sure you check it and see what happens. And if you have a 40 watt or the 2 watt infrared, that is a totally different setting as well. This is for the 20 watt. So now that we have that offset figured out, I just want to burn one of my logos. And the reason for that is if I click here on Cut Layers, I want to test the automatic air assist. So in Lightburn, if I shut off, I know it's going to change my image and probably make it look horrible, but if I shut off the air assist on the first 3 processes here of the engraving, I want to know what it's going to do. So we're just going to frame this out for starters. I'll focus to make sure that it's all good. And then we'll just start the engraving. And sure enough, the air assist stayed off for all of it except for that final engraving there at the top. So that's perfect. You can control your air assist either on or off using the Lightburn controls. Well, at this point, we have our laser set up. It is working perfectly. We fixed that issue with the offset. Guys, this thing just works. It works well. However, I want to touch just briefly on functionality. There are certain features of the xTool S1 20 watt fully enclosed laser that do not work on Lightburn. I tested that automatic air assist. That works fine as long as you turn it on or off in your different layers that you're engraving. But that 2-point positioning that works so well in XCS, you will lose that using Lightburn. Also, that curved surface engraving, the ability to have the laser pinpoint and map out a curved surface to be able to adjust the focus all the way through as it's engraving on that surface. That function is gone. I honestly can't see Lightburn making some kind of a plugin to make this happen. The good news is, though, is that if you have something that you need to engrave on a curved surface, guys, these things don't just pop up out of the blue. You just don't suddenly say, oh my gosh, I went to engrave this and it's a curved surface. You knew it was curved. So work in XCS and then you get the full functionality. This is just it. XCS is a great software and it is designed to go hand in hand with the S1 enclosed laser. So if you want the full function, all of the marbles sort of thing, then use XCS. If you want the kind of ability, I don't want to say a better software, because Lightburn is not necessarily a better software, it's just more in depth. You can get much more detail, I find, in Lightburn than what you can in XCS. XCS is kind of a stepping stone. It is a beginner's program, and it is to help the beginners who have never used laser engravers before. It is to help them step up to the plate and be able to do fantastic looking engravings right from the get-go using a software that's very user-friendly and very easy to figure out. Lightburn kind of throws you out to the wolves, and if you're using Lightburn, they kind of figure that you already have an idea of what you're doing in the laser engraving world, so they don't really hold your hand. Whereas XCS really helps and guides you through and really gives you the beginning of the laser engraving and helps you learn the process. And the great part about it is that it's 100% free. So just be aware, guys, that if you are going to use Lightburn, you're going to lose some of the functions of the 20-watt S1 laser. And there you have it. Setting up your xTool 20-watt S1 fully enclosed laser engraver with Lightburn. Guys, you can go through this manually, step by step, and add the device manually, but it's so much easier and so much more convenient to use the configuration file that is on xTool's website. I showed you very clearly at the beginning of the video here where to get the file and how to download it. Now, while I did find a couple quirks with it, such as that offset not being turned on, that was a little odd, but you know what? This is part of the process. Even though that was turned off, it gave the opportunity for me to show you guys how to troubleshoot things like this. So I'm not going to be too concerned about it. If you've ever been involved in any kind of software or application programming, you know that there is so many things that can cause problems throughout the development of these softwares. So to miss one little simple thing like turning on the toggle on the offset of the laser and the crosshairs, it's no big deal. I'm not worried. I'm surprised there wasn't more that was out of whack with this. Either way, guys, this is a fantastic way to set up your laser using the configuration files. As I showed you here today, you can calibrate it a little tighter if you want with that offset. Do as you wish with it. It has its quirks, but the xTool S1 is a very versatile machine, and it really works extremely well with multiple platforms. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you found this informative. I know that several of you have asked me over the past couple weeks since I aired the show on the xTool S1. I know that you have asked about setting it up with Lightburn because that is the program that some of you prefer. So hopefully this tutorial today is going to help you to get your machine connected to Lightburn and start using this laser, because if you're not using your S1, you're truly missing out. I want to thank xTool for sending me out the S1 to play around with. I really love this laser and I've been having such a great time with it. But either way, guys, you won't be disappointed if you get one of these for your shop. The links will be down below. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. We've got a fantastic audience base here. We really do. And I'm hoping that you're going to consider becoming a part of that. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the content this week. I hope you found it helpful and informative. I hope it's answered your questions to those of you who have sent me messages. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.